want to encourage you as a young athlete and a parent that may be watching this of your young athlete, whether it's baseball. I'm obviously at Steward Sports here. Baseball and softball are a big deal. But no matter what the sport is, I hope it's sports more than just one, especially when they're under the age of 13. Even as they get into high school, I always like to see athletes play at least two sports, the one they probably love the most, and then something else. Like track's always a great complement to any sport. For example, whether it's a bigger athlete that might be a thrower, or an athlete that might be working on speed, track's a great place to work on that. Especially from our traditional sports like soccer, baseball, football, softball, those sports, basketball, and so on. But I also want to encourage, though, that unfortunately in the era we live in, and it's not the case for every family. I know our neighborhood that we live in is a nice neighborhood, and we had some great kids in the neighborhood, but those kids have moved away, and so it's a little bit harder to get natural play. We call it, my wife and I call it 1980s summer. I grew up in the 80s. And so, in the 80s, I remember my parents being, my mom in particular, being upset when I would come home before the sun went down. Like, what are you doing here? Other than lunch, like, there's no reason for you to be here. And so what I'm getting at is a lot of kids now don't have that outside play time. They don't have that movement discovery. They don't jump on things. They don't jump off things, etc. And part of what I want to do at the Armory here, and whether you go to the Armory or not, my encouragement to you is to find a place to let kids explore movement. And so, here at the Armory, one thing I encourage is a lot of different movements. Sometimes those, we do the same movements over and over again. There are some, but even our jumping drills, I try to mix up every week, just with the intent of, we're talking about young athletes, right, of exploring movement. Older athletes, there's a certain part that you have to just grind, right? There's certain types of jumps, especially as you get more specific into sports, that you need to work on. If you're a hockey player, you're going to spend a lot of time doing skater jumps and skater jump variants. A depth jump is a pretty intense jump, not for every athlete, but for a volleyball player, that's probably going to be a staple for that volleyball player moving forward. But when an athlete is young, more movement is going to be more better. So whether you do it here at the Armory or you do it elsewhere, if your athlete is not getting that general movement, not sports specific, not soccer practice, not baseball practice, but just general movement, just moving around, sprinting, jumping, sidestep, shuffling, all those things. If they're not doing that, I encourage you to find a program near you that might be doing some sort of speed and agility. It doesn't have to even be fancy. It doesn't have to be, as long as the kids are having a good time and working hard, it doesn't have to be anything super programmatically excellent. Progression's always good and variety is good, but just getting kids to move again is valuable. And I'm surprised how many older athletes cannot execute basic movement skills because they never developed them when they were younger. All right, just a little public service announcement from me. If you're interested in what we're doing at the Armory, message me or text is even better, 801-918-4192. We'll see you soon.